Hello, this is Tommy DeLeo, and for the next hour, I'll be reading the Friday, July 17th issue of the Democrat Chronicle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Canadian wildfire smoke brings dangers to health. Advisory on air quality extended for much of New York. New York Connect Team, USA Today Network. The hazy orange-yellow hue of skies across New York remained Thursday, July 16th, as smoke from the Canadian wildfires continues to move into the region, bringing unhealthy air quality and a dystopian feel. This is the worst we've seen so far, said the National Weather Service meteorologist Heather Kenyon. It is expected that conditions will improve Friday, Kenyon said, but we should still expect to see hazy skies going into the weekend. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation extended an air quality health advisory for much of western, central, and parts of eastern New York through midnight Thursday, as elevated levels of fine particulate pollution were expected. State officials will continue monitoring conditions. Fireworks show suspended. The nightly Niagara Falls fireworks show has been temporarily suspended because of wildfire smoke and poor air quality conditions affecting the region. The Niagara Falls fireworks program, which typically runs from May to October, will resume once air conditions improve, according to officials. How to protect yourself from wildfire smoke. Health officials recommend check air quality conditions before spending extended time outdoors. Limit prolonged or strenuous outdoor activity when pollution levels are elevated. If you must be outdoors, wear a fitting N95 or KN95 mask to reduce exposure to fine smoke particles. Stay well hydrated. Stay indoors when possible and keep windows and doors closed when possible. Use air conditioning or an air purifier if available. Monitor smoke forecasts and air quality updates throughout the city. When to seek medical care. Fine particle pollution, known as PM 2.5, consists of tiny particles that can travel deep into the lungs and may worsen asthma, heart disease, and other respiratory conditions. Children, older adults, and people with underlying heart disease, asthma, or other respiratory conditions are among those most at risk. If you or someone else develops severe symptoms such as wheezing, chest pain, or significant shortness of breath, Dr. Daniel Croft, a pulmonologist with University of Rochester Medicine, recommends roving to a clean, air-conditioned environment immediately and seeking medical attention. Get the person into a clean environment, such as a home, library, or other air-conditioned building, he said. If they're having an extreme reaction, seek medical care right away. Odyssey used film made in Rochester. Marcia Greenwood. Rochester Democrat Chronicle, USA Today Network. On July 16th, Christopher Nolan's highly anticipated epic The Odyssey arrives in theaters as the first major motion picture to be shot entirely with IMAX cameras. And those cameras were loaded with Kodak 65mm motion picture film made here in Rochester. The shoot, which unfolded over 91 days across 6 countries, used more than 2 million feet of Kodak celluloid, Nolan told Empire magazine in November 2025. Most movies are now shot digitally. In a In a 2023 interview posted to Kodak's YouTube page, Nolan talked about his insistence on using film. The way a film camera records light onto its emulsion. I think that's what he said. That's as close as you can get to the way the eye sees, he said. His Oscar-winning Oppenheimer was also shot on Kodak stock, including a black and white version of the company developed just for the movie. In addition, Kodak has taken a role in promoting the Odyssey on its social media channels, including YouTube. What is the Odyssey about? Based on Homer's ancient poem of the same name, the Odyssey follows Greek king Odysseus on a harrowing 10-year journey home after the Trojan War. This movie's all-star casts include Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, and Tom Holland. Where is the Odyssey playing in the Rochester area? Cinemark Tinseltown at 2291 Buffalo Road in Gates will show the film in 70mm, the highest resolution format in existence, in its IMAX theater starting July 17th. Screenings will start as early as 8 a.m. The movie's running time is 2 hours and 52 minutes. Theaters showing the Odyssey in 35mm or 2D formats include the Little Apple Cinemas in Greece and in Pittsburgh and the AMC Webster. For a complete list of show times, go to fandango.com. Best Picture Oscar prediction. Earlier this month, IndieWire editor at large Anne Thompson wrote that her high expectations were met with the stunningly mounted film, which she said is the movie need to beat for Best Picture at the 2027 Oscars. When Los Angeles Times film editor Joshua Rothkopf, praised the movie as pure cinema writing. Obviously, the story is about returning home, but in a larger sense. This is also a return home to the robustly entertaining action movies that cinema was invented to tell. Polygon deputy editor Jake Kleinman wrote on X that while The Odyssey is Nolan's most straightforward movie ever, it's also maybe his most impressive, noting that both the epic scale and attention to detail are absolutely stunning. The closest comparison I can think of is Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. Webster mayor appoints trustee after 133 to 133 election tie. Steve Howe. Rochester Democrat Chronicle, USA Today Network. Webster Mayor Darrell Bayards has appointed Michael Morency to a vacant village board seat after a June trustee election ended in a rare tie. Morency, a Republican, and Brian McGraw running on the Webster Neighbors line ended in a 133 to 133 tie after a count of all election day and mail-in ballots and a full manual recount. The village announced that Bayards, a Republican, appointed Morency on July 15th. There will be another election next June for the position with a 4-year term. A tie-in an election is unusual. Under New York state law, a winner can only be declared if one candidate receives the most votes. Without a winner, it leaves a failure to elect, and as a result, a vacancy. While ties in village elections are typically resolved by random selection, that's only when the village clerk administers the election. All the villages in Monroe County have transferred administration to the County Board of Elections. However, so however. So those village elections fall under the general election framework under state law instead. As a result, the village fills the vacancy under its established procedures. Morency was then appointed by Bairds, but will only serve for 1 year before another village election in 2027. Morency served on the village board the previous year. He's a retired Monroe County Sheriff's Office sergeant and current court security officer. During his time in office, he has made park revitalization a priority. Hundreds honor Rochester firefighter Kayla Khan, I think. The casket of Rochester Fire Lieutenant John Joseph did not arrive in a hearse, but rather in the bed of a fire truck, rumbling on south on Exchange Boulevard until it reached dozens of first responders standing at attention, waiting to greet their fallen brother for the last time. It was only fitting for a man who lived and breathed the fire service. Joseph's department issued jacket and helmet led the way, fastened to the front bumper of the truck. His portrait filled a large screen above. The image captured the man just 2 weeks before his death. Joseph was dressed head to toe in bunker gear at the sight of a 2-alarm fire in Rochester, and he was smiling. John was Engine 5 to the bone, Union President Matt Murphy later said during a memorial service for the firefighter Wednesday. Joseph died July 7th after a battle with cancer. He was 37 years old and spent most of his adult life in the firehouse. He first chose the uniform as a child. His mother patched together a kid-sized version using one of his father's old uniforms when he was a boy. Joseph would get the real thing in 2008 at 19. Then he worked his way up to lieutenant of the Engine 5 firehouse on Leal Avenue, one of the city's busiest stations. Murphy said he rarely missed a shift, even after he fell sick. Before he passed, he said to his father, I got one last fire in me, Murphy said. For his commitment to the job, Joseph was remembered for his brave embrace of life. Friends and family members said he was fearless in his pursuit of adventure. Winter climbing in the Adirondacks, skydiving in colorful wingsuits, sailing, skiing, and scuba diving. Always riding his bike to work, even through the dreadful Rochester winter. His annual Christmas cards played on that joy, with 2 eclectic characters and post in out of this world scenes. There was Joseph with his beloved Bengal cat Otto and his vacuum jumping out of a plane or landing on the moon. Back on Earth, Otto was truly his cherished companion. Joseph's sister, Melissa, said the cat often joined him on his sailboat, safely tucked into a cat-sized life jacket, and on nights out to a local bar. Although John spent his adult life in pursuit of big adventures, she said, he always kept his childlike wonder for the world. Murphy added that when he was smiling, so were you. That cheerful spirit softened to a somber line of duty death funeral at the Blue Cross Arena that fall and included a last alarm ceremony and a reading of the fireman's prayer. Following the ceremony, Rochester Fire Chief Stefano Napolitano, represented Joseph's parents with a tightly folded American flag in honor of his faithful service. Then his casket was loaded back onto a fire truck one last time. Joseph had one more stop to make, the fire department said. A final ride past the Engine 5 firehouse before he could rest. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Democrat Chronicle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Rating Service. 70-year-old man drowns in Little Sawdust Bay. Victoria E. Fraley, I think. New York Connect Team, USA Today Network. A 70-year-old man drowned July 14th in Little Sodus Bay at Fairhaven Beach State Park in Cayuga County, according to New York State Police. Man entered water to cool off, police say.